If you have experience with an older version of React, you won't believe your eyes in this video because the newest version of React completely transformed how components are written. If you're new to React, you will only find that the way how we write React components and how we describe our programs is going to be very convenient for you. We will now build a simple flashcard application step by step using an online sandbox. So this means that nothing will prevent you from coding along with me from start to finish, seeing the result of you writing the code step by step. And by the end of the video, you will have a simple flashcard app. Let's go to codesandbox.io. This is where we're gonna experiment with the latest React updates, and we're gonna just create a simple flashcards app. You might have used flashcards when you studied a language or studied math or something else. It's like, on one side there is the question, and on the other side, when you flip it, there is the answer. And this is very good for memorization. We're gonna build a React app that will do exactly that. So let me explain what's going on. We're going to codesandbox.io. We're clicking the Create as Sandbox, it's free button. Then select the React as a template. React has this atom as the icon. You will recognize it everywhere from the solid light blue color and the atom symbol. So we have a React application in here. Don't worry about all the details. I said you don't really need to know programming to start following what I'm doing. So let's see. We have this import React from React line. And afterwards there is this import styles.css. The first one just imports the React library for us. And we're going to be able to use the React library inside the code as React with capital R. With the style.css, we will just have some styling so that our flashcards are not going to look like simple text, but they will be somewhat good looking cards. And then we have this app function, and there is a chance that you understand it. If you have learned some HTML, then you know that we have a div, a heading 1 and a heading 2 element. So you have this hello code sandbox, for example, that's our main title on the right, you see? And then we have the start editing to see some magic happen. That's also on the right with heading 2, which is somewhat smaller than heading 1. And of course, we group all these inside a div with the class name app, which is going to be important once you will see the styles. So that's all the code. Whenever you see code like this, it's important to always fiddle with it. So explore what if scenarios, explore what happens if you change something. For example, it's not too risky to change the titles. So we're gonna start writing some proper titles, flashcards, and the other one is click on a card to reveal the secret solution. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna build flashcards, right? So far it's easy. You see that whenever you make changes, the changes appear on the right immediately. Next up is the card component. Let's just imitate what we just saw. You see that there is this function. Now we're not gonna export it, so this export and default are not gonna be in there, but the function will be. We're gonna create a function card, and we're just gonna return a simple div with class name flashcard and just the front side, so it's just gonna be simple text. Once you save changes, you see that this code sandbox just auto formats everything for you. So even my parentheses are gone. I know if you have experience with React, normally these components go to their separate files. We'll do that later. Let's not confuse ourselves with some more difficulties. Now comes the real beauty. All we need to do to create card components is just after the H1 and the H2, we can start adding these card elements. Cards are with capital C, it's the same as the function name. And as I add all the cards, they display their front side below each other. It's that easy. Next up, let's add some styles. We're gonna write some style sheets. These style sheets are in styles.css. You already see the main app style, and we're gonna add some styles for the flashcard, so that they look like flashcards and not something else. This is technically not React material, so you either know basic CSS or not. Don't sweat it at this point. We're just describing some basic properties. So for example, flashcard, the font size is gonna be 24 pixels. The line height is gonna be 3 times that, so 72 pixels. This means that we're gonna have some text, some space at the top and some space at the bottom. The width could be like 3 times the line height, so we'll have 216 pixels. The border is gonna be black and solid, just very narrow border. And now you can see the 3 cards aligning. That's good about CSS, by the way. What you see is what you get. You make a change and it immediately appears on the right. Now you see that the cards don't look that good, that they are just below each other. So let's add some margin, let it be 18 pixels. Let's add some background color to the card. For example, this 200, 200, 200, red, green, blue color. This is gonna be good. And notice that once we hover over the card, the cursor is not correct. So it needs to be a pointer. And there is a last problem that if you have some text on the card, it's selectable right now. Let's prevent that with user select none. This is just some CSS. You can just copy what's on screen. We would like to reveal the back side of the card once we click the card. So we just go to the card component and we're gonna display some other text whenever we have the front side or the back side changing. This is gonna be some new React element. That's gonna be one of the surprises I promised not too long ago. So let's start with const. This holds for constant. So in every function we have either constants or variables. We'll just create some handles through which we can access some values. And here we're gonna add a bracket, text, and set text. So this is gonna be a structure that React is gonna return for us. We need a React concept to be able to determine if we're showing the front side or the back side. This is called state. Every single card has a state. It's either on the front or on the back, right? So this is what we display in there. Let's model the state just by grasping the front side and the back side text. We're gonna do this with react.useState. Notice React is already imported for us, so we have access to this useState. And then we're just gonna initialize it with some initial value. That's gonna be the front side. And this react.useState returns a structure that we can describe as text and set text. And then we'll just add the const JavaScript keyword in front of it to symbolize that this structure, this list or array is a constant. This first value text returns the current value of the state at any point in time. And the set text is responsible for changing the text. If we can access the current value of text, then why not just replace the front side with this text? We can do this in React by putting braces around the variable. So far so good. So the only thing we need now is handling the click. So let's create a click handler function. We can just write function handle click. It's just a JavaScript function. And inside this function, let's call set text. And let's set the text to backside for simplicity. We have access to this set text because it's in the same card functional component. The only thing we need now is to add this handle click in the onClick property of the div. So whenever we click on our card, the handle click function is executed and it changes the state from front side to back side. Notice that the rendered code doesn't change at all. I can click on any of the cards, they are flipped to their backside. And we didn't ask React to re-render anything for us. We just changed the state. React is written in such a convenient way that it finds out on its own that the card has to be re-rendered because our component changed. Just imagine how easy is that. So you don't really need to add any rendering logic, changing classes. You don't even touch the DOM, you don't even touch the document at all. You just manipulate the state and let React do its magic. Now, this is all great, but it's not enough because think about it. These flashcards are quite useless. They just have a front side text and a back side text. What if we could just add the front side and the back side of the flashcards from the outside? So you have these card components, and what if I just added this front side property and I add a question like 9 times 6, and the back side, which is the answer, it's 54. And then the next one, 2 to the power of 8, you know, the double asterisk is a JavaScript operation. It's the power. 2 to the power of 8, it's like 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 and so on 8 times. And the answer is 256. The third one, let the front side be rabbit times 8. And well, what is rabbit times 8? Well, it's obvious, it's reb byte. You know, 1 byte has 8 bits. This is gonna be the content of the third card. We just need to make the app accept our text. This text is called props. Inside the function card, we can just create a props. In other frameworks, this could be a lot more painful. Notice in React, it's just a piece of cake. We just pass the props, and inside the props, we have access to all these properties like front side and back side. So the initial value changes to props.frontside. Inside the handle click, the set text is gonna be props.backside. So whenever we click, we reveal the backside, and that's it. You see that now we have proper questions and answers. Maybe it's time to do the promised cleanup. So let's move the card component to its own file. Copy pasting the card, and don't forget to import React. Here we don't have to import the CSS because it was already imported in the app. Later it may be worth separating styles for each and every component, maybe even putting them in their own folder, but here we're just playing, we're just experimenting, so let's not worry about this. Also, don't forget to write export default in front of function card. We're just copying what's in the other file. In the app, the card component is deleted, so it's not working anymore. Notice the error. Our code doesn't find the card component. So let's import it. This is something new because we have to import another component from another file. So we write import card. So card is going to be the name through which we're going to refer to the card from the app component, and you need to add the from keyword, and afterwards, instead of writing card, you need to add the dot and the slash in front of the card name to tell JavaScript that card.js is in the same folder as app.js, because we're doing this from app.js and we just need to tell JavaScript how to locate the card. Now the code is working as expected. Let's go back to the card component for a moment. And I'll fill you in a secret. Advanced JavaScript developers don't really like typing that much. There is even this acronym DRY, which stands for don't repeat yourself, and the opposite of it is obviously WET, which is we enjoy typing. And whenever we can save some references or anything that could go wrong, anything that could go wrong will go wrong, we just simplify. So why would we keep on repeating writing this props dot if we don't even need them? It's not a bad thing to write props, it just complicates things a bit. So we can use a great JavaScript feature called JavaScript destructuring. By the way, check out my video on destructuring for more details. It explains everything you need to know about destructuring. It looks like this. Whenever you have props, which has a front side and a back side property, you can dig inside these props and just take out the front side and the back side as variables. You just need to add braces. These braces are different braces than what you can see in the text. So in the text, we're just telling the renderer that here you need to substitute a JavaScript expression. In the card component, instead of the props where you have the front side and the back side, you tell JavaScript that this is an object, this is a JavaScript object, and we are looking for the property front side, and give me its value. Same holds for the back side. So these are completely different braces. And now we can just delete props dot in front side and in back side as well. Similarly, it's the same destructuring assignment. You also have useState. You can take useState out from React just by writing comma after the React, which means that we would like to import a second thing after React, and it's gonna be just the braces and useState. It means give me the useState property of React and make it accessible inside the useState. So now we don't even need to write react.useState, we can just write useState. Let's see what's missing. This app is cool and all, but frankly I would prefer flipping the card back to its original side after the second click. You see, we click once and we just keep on seeing the back side. It's not that good. For this to happen, we'll need to update the state with a function. Because in React, we're not modifying the DOM. We cannot just add classes to the cards, or we cannot just change their colors. It doesn't work like that. It works in a way that when we change the state, we derive what we need to render from the state, and React will decide when it will render the component. This solves a lot of headache for us, and it eliminates a lot of mistakes, so it's very good that we do it like this. So all we need to do is we can change the set text from accepting a simple value, a simple constant, to accepting a function. In this function, we have the old state on the left. It's an input of a function. We can add an arrow. And After the arrow, we can add the body of the function. So this is like an arrow function. The return value of the function body describes what the old state becomes. So if the old state is currently the front side, we can compare old state and front side with, for example, triple equals. This is a typical JavaScript comparison. Then we return the back side. Otherwise, we return the front side. And now you can see that as we click, we can alternate between the front side and the back side. This arrow function is the exact same thing as writing function old state. So if you don't like this arrow function notation, it's alien to you, just use this old function old state. This arrow function notation is very similar to writing function old state. In fact, in this context, we don't even observe a difference. So if arrow functions are alien to you, like input, arrow, output, then just use function old state and you're set. By the way, I also have a video on arrow functions in my channel, so if you want to learn more about arrow functions, check out that video too. Alright, now we have front side and back side. We could go on and on. You could add new cards, delete cards, connect with a dictionary service, for instance, to learn a new language, or we could easily transform this app to a memory game even, maybe another time. Let's stop this experiment here, but let's just add one more step. Adding a lighter touch to the card background once it's flipped. Why is this important? Well, because we need to know which guesses we have made already. So whether we're viewing the front side or the back side. When people study, it's kind of important. So let's rethink the CSS. We'll make the background depend on the front and the back class. So we're gonna add the front class and the back class. We're just gonna chain it inside the FlashCard. Given we have CSS, this is the way to describe this. And we'll just add the background color to be this light gray and the front and some other color on the background. So it doesn't really matter what it is, it's just different. It should look somewhat lighter possibly because it's the answer. But now the situation is that the only state that we have in the card component is this front side, back side text. This text should have nothing to do with what color we have. So let's rethink the state. What if we could just store if you're seeing the front or the back of the card? It would make more sense, right? So let's do that. So if we're seeing the front, we're just going to use isFront as the name. And for the second setter function, we're just going to use changeFace. And then the initial value is going to be true because we're seeing the front of the card. I know you may have 1,000 questions on how React figures out all this state magic, but notice this is a good thing because React is damn smart and it does a lot of work instead of you. Just remember one thing, pay attention to the state changes and don't touch the DOM by manipulating colors, adding classes and so on, because this is not how React works. Just be clever about how you describe your state. So with our last change, the text variable is gone, and this means we need to re-add it as another constant. So we're just gonna write isFront. That's a Boolean expression. If it's true, then the value of this expression is gonna be front side after the question mark. So let's use a JavaScript ternary expression, ternary operator. We have a Boolean expression isFront. After the question mark, we have the value when isFront is true, so that's going to be the front side, and after the colon we have the back side. It's when isFront is false. I could write if-else statements, but why doing this in 5 lines if you could just do it in 1? So it's like if isFront is true, then text is front side, otherwise text is back side. Let's now address the handler. So there is also the event handler. We can do a lot of simplifications actually, because all we need is we just need to flip the state. So we have this changeFace function, now it's called changeFace, and we need to flip the old state to not old state. The negation is an exclamation mark in JavaScript. So not old state, if old state was true, it's gonna be false, and if old state was false, it's gonna be true. And that's all. Let's now describe the classes that have to be added to the div. So we have this side class front or back. It also depends on the isFront. And we can add this class to a class list. Here we're going to use JavaScript template literals. So we have these backticks. It's just below your escape key, by the way. And we have FlashCard, that's the first class. And inside the template literal, we can add the JavaScript variable. Similarly to the text at the bottom, you see this rendered element, but we need to add a dollar in front of it because that's how JavaScript template literals work. Check out my article on template literals. It's on my blog. They are very useful because you can even write text in multiple lines. So here we assemble a class list, and we can just add this value to the class name property of the rendered value. Here you need to use the same symbols, the open brace and the close brace, to tell React that here a JavaScript expression is gonna be evaluated as the class name of the div. And now, as you can see with the clicks, the cards change color as well, and they also reveal their front and their back. Maybe there is just one important detail about React applications that you might want to see about how this application is rendered. So React is separated into two separate parts. One is React that builds the components and everything else, and the other one is called React DOM. And inside React DOM, you can see that it basically has a render method, and this render method renders React components. So that's all we do. You see this react.strict mode. This gives us a development environment where every single error message is strictly specified so that you have a better understanding of what is going on. And inside the React strict mode, if we make some changes to the document, for example, we add this after the app text, then it's rendered by the React DOM.render. And where is it rendered? Well, we have this root element at the top. This const root element equals document.getElement by ID root, and it's inserted into a DOM node in the document. And by the way, if we wanted to make some more changes to the application, for example, by adding an image, remember that this rabbit image flashed once. And the way how I did it was I inserted the code of the image in the document. So this is how React applications are rendered. You need to include both React and React DOM, because obviously without React DOM, you would not be able to render your React components anywhere. By the way, if you used React Native, for example, for mobile development, you would be able to use your React components, and instead of React DOM, you would have another library that takes care of rendering your components. So these are the details of how React is used. Hopefully that's easy enough and it's inspiring enough that you get started first cloning some applications, then building web apps or even mobile apps on your own. So we are now done with the exercise. With just this knowledge, you have a small to medium chance of passing a React interview challenge. If you just learn how to handle a list of elements, forms, and API calls, which is not that hard, you greatly increase your chances of getting hired as a React developer.